Good morning, YouTube. This is Kelsey from Anna Porter Public Library, also known as Librarians Recommend, and I am here on this Wednesday morning to discuss with you I Owe You One by Sophie Kinsella, an adult romance comedy, and I gave it a rating of 4.5 out of 5 stars. I would also recommend it as PG-13. Like I said before in previous videos, it is not my job to determine what is appropriate for you or your child to check out, but I like to go ahead and give my audience at least a little bit of an idea of what to expect when they're reading a book. This is very light reading. There are no necessarily adult scenes that I can speak of or think of, so I definitely think it's appropriate for most ages. Okay, now on Friday I will also be uploading a video known as My Favorite Books Thus Far of 2020. This will be a reoccurring video that I do every quarter, and by the end of the year I will do a finalized favorite 5 books of 2020 and a top favorite book. So I look forward to those videos when it comes time, but today, as I've said before, we're going to discuss I Owe You One. Okay. So as I said before, I gave this book a rating of 4.5 stars, and now I'm going to give you a little bit of information about the actual plot. The story is about Fixie Fair. She is 27 years old, she resides in London, England, and she has always put family first. And she is a chronic fixer. She feels a very necessary need to fix things for people. It is just how she is programmed. And because of this tendency, one day in London, in a coffee shop, she runs into a handsome investment manager who asks her to watch his laptop for a moment while he steps outside to have a conversation with his girlfriend. And Fixie ends up saving his laptop from the ceiling. Apparently there was flooding and the ceiling just kind of collapses, and Fixie is able to rescue his laptop before any damage can happen to it, and because of that, this stranger, his name is Sebastian, feels like he owes her. Thus starts a chain reaction of IOUs, and he writes down his IOU on a coffee sleeve. Now, at the first, Fixie does not want to cash in because throughout the entire story she is described as very, very selfless. She always puts others, including her family, first before herself. However, when her childhood crush Ryan returns to her life with little to no career prospects, Fixie decides it's time to cash in this IOU to Sebastian and gets a job for Ryan through his company as a junior position. And thus starts the chain reaction of IOUs from Fixie to Seb. Okay, so now I'm going to discuss the things that I really enjoyed about this book. There was almost nothing that I didn't enjoy about it. It was a very light, fun, charming read. I recommend it if you're kind of in what's known as a book slump, or some other people call it a book hangover. I'm going to just call it a book slump because I feel like that's more appropriate, especially considering this is a professional channel that I run. So I recommend it if you just are kind of in a slump and aren't sure of what you want to read next, and if you enjoy light, fun comedy and just, really amusing characters, then this is definitely a book I would recommend for you. The pacing was very quick, and the chapter introductions was something that I really appreciated. In fact, one of my favorite chapter transitions, Fixie is talking about, I am not going to fix this, I am not going to, insert myself into this situation, I'm not going to put my nose into it, and then the very next page she says, but I can't resist, I have to fix it. And that was just the way it was written was very funny to me. Overall, the way this book was written was very well done. It's a very modern book, very, very quick read. Again, because it was charming and the characters were very charming. Let's see. There was a lot of character development, especially in I Owe You One. At first, I liked Fixie, but I had an issue with her because she is very much a little self-conscious. She doesn't have a whole lot of self-esteem, mostly due to her siblings, who I was not a fan of, and you're kind of not supposed to be a fan of her siblings the whole time. You have her older sister, who is just kind of in her own little world, has always been this attractive woman, and more or less has always been in her own little bubble, and doesn't like reach out to, you know, offer, pull her own weight, so to speak. And Fixie's brother, Jake, is more or less just this. It takes a lot for him to be redeemed, but he is eventually relatively redeemed. But he's one of those characters who is very, very judgmental of Fixie, as well as how she runs the fair store. I guess I should mention that Fixie and her family, especially she and her mother, have a home supplies store that was originally Fixie's father's. It was his business, and they cater to the people of London. It's very much a homey sort of store, and Jake, her older brother, is trying to turn it into this posh, high-end sort of business. So they clash a lot, and he is very ugly to Fixie and very, very hostile multiple times in the books. And there were a few times when I just wanted to more or less just shake her and be like, don't put up with this behavior. Just because he's your older brother doesn't mean that he has the right to treat you like that. But again, there was so much character development, so excellent job with that, Sophie Kinsella. I am actually pretty much a big fan of hers. I've also read her book Finding Audrey, and I want to say one other book by her, and those were both very good, so I do recommend this author. And again, Fixie grows a lot. I would describe her as selfless, kind, practical, and emotionally intelligent. She picks up quite a bit and pretty often on other people's feelings, and she's very empathetic. And I would describe her in terms of D&D as a lawful good sort of character. Some quotes that of Fixie's that I just wanted to mention that I really feel like encompass not only the story but her own growth and her own purpose in this story is, the first one is, I'm starting to see family differently. It's not just the people you share genes with, it's the people you share loyalty and friendship and respect with. It's the people you love. So I thought that was fantastic because it really goes with the theme of the entire book. And another quote of hers that really stuck out to me is, love isn't blocking people out, it's the opposite. If you love someone, you engage with them. You don't block them out, you talk to them. So that's Fixie's character, and I really loved her. And of course, Seb is the romantic lead. He is the love interest to Fixie. His name is Sebastian, but he goes by Seb. I would describe Sebastian as charming, kind, thoughtful, passionate, romantic, and hilarious. Seb was my favorite character in this book series. I would describe him as chaotic good. And some negative traits about him is he can be a little bit snippy, and he kind of pushes people out and refuses to embrace a tragedy that happens in his past, and it's something that he and Fixie eventually have to convene over. But again, this Sophie Kinsella did an excellent job of character development, especially in this series. And I think I've mentioned in the past on previous videos that I really appreciate character development, and there was a lot of that in this book. Some memorable quotes from Sebastian were, first, humans have a far greater instinct for what's right in life than lawyers do, and I just thought that was really funny because Sebastian is very much about human rights, and he's very passionate about people being paid a fair wage. So that's something that I really felt like was very prominent in his character. And another quote that really stuck out for me from Sebastian was, but I think you need to start thinking less about what you owe other people and more about what you owe yourself. And that's something he says to Fixie when they're kind of in the middle of a fight. So I thought that was really important, and it kind of helped Vixie transition into the person that she eventually becomes by the end of the book. And one other character that I'm just going to mention who isn't super prominent, but she is Vixie's best friend. Her name is Hannah, and she's more or less like the Leslie Knope of organization. If you've never seen Parks and Recreation, Leslie Knope is extremely organized. She is one of those people who is prepared for anything and has a binder for anything. So if you think of Leslie Knope, think of Hannah. However, she's much more, in terms of temperament, diluted. She's much calmer. She's very much a practical planner, and she and her husband are attempting to have a baby. And one of my favorite scenes is when Vixie comes to visit her, and she is in this the nursery, or the plan to be nursery, and it is just filled with planning and notes, and just like Hannah trying to basically prepare a child that hasn't even been conceived yet for college. And Vixie's just kind of like, let me rein you in a little bit and calm you down. So I thought Hannah's character was really funny as well. So I just thought I would do a fun mention of her. And of course, there is a happy ending, so I won't give anything away in terms of that. But overall, it was a fun, sweet read. It was very articulate as well. There were a few times at least I had to pause and look up a vocabulary word because I hadn't seen that word before. So I thought but it wasn't overwhelming, and it didn't take away from the story. So again, overall, I give I Owe You One 4.5 out of 5 stars. It was really entertaining. I finished it within just a few days. And if you're like me and you like to more or less keep up with things that you enjoyed about a book, I recommend these little tabs that I got from Walmart. They are plastic, and they give you just enough room to keep up, to catalog with what you liked about a certain part of a book. Alrighty, well that's all I have today for I Owe You One by Sophie Kinsella. As I said before, on Friday this week I will be uploading a video regarding my favorite books thus far of 2020, and my main focus is going to be my favorite fantasy read, my favorite romance read, and then my favorite overall. Thanks for watching. I appreciate my subscribers. I appreciate everyone who ever likes my videos or offers a suggestion or comments or just says hi. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and I will see you on Friday.